This is your number one station.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
And we're back. We're very glad to have with us right now Jeannie Suk Gersen, professor. She's a John H. Watson Junior Professor of Law at Harvard Law School, where she's taught constitutional law, criminal law, procedure, family law of the art, fashion, and the performing arts. She also served as a law clerk for Justice David Souter and also Judge Harry Edwards, educated at Yale, Oxford, Harvard. She's written 3 books. She's a contributing writer to The New Yorker. In fact, her recent article is called Converting to Judaism in the Wake of October 7th. For decades, I maintained a status quo of living like a Jew without being one. When I finally pursued conversion, I discovered I was part of a larger movement born of crisis. Professor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. So you were married to 2 Jewish men. About 25 years you've been exploring Judaism. So tell us about yourself. I believe you were born in Seoul, and your parents are refugees from North Korea.
Yes, my parents, each of them, when they were children, escaped from North Korea. They fled in 1950 during the Korean War with their families, and then they both were in Seoul, and that was where I was born. And then I came to the United States with my parents in 1979 when I was 6 years old. And
what religion did you practice?
So I came from a bit of a multi-religious family, in that my family had Buddhist roots as well as some Catholicism on my father's side and some Christianity, Protestantism on my mother's side from a time when American missionaries came to Korea and converted people in Korea. And so my mother had gone to a Christian school created by Americans in Seoul. So my family was kind of a mishmash of different things, but I grew up with some knowledge of traditional Korean, I would say, how would you call it? Like shamanistic Korean old practices that involved sort of respect for ancestors and recognition of their legacy, as well as some Christian ideas. And then when we came to the United States in 1979, you may know that many Korean communities in the United States are kind of centered around church communities. And so even Koreans who come to the United States who didn't have religion end up kind of coalescing around a Christian Protestant community, because a lot of the Korean community happens around Christian religion.
So do you know anything about Jews or Judaism in those years?
Well, the thing is, there was a lot of Bible reading when I was young, and a lot of study, very close study of Bible when in those years. And so I felt very familiar with the story of the Israelites and of Jews, and I had that identification with the Jewish people, and also just I always felt like the Hebrew Bible was the part of the the scripture that we were taught that I identified with most.
Now, you also married your first married Professor Noah Feldman, who, in fact, I believe he took you, and you were not Jewish then, to a modern Orthodox school where he had a school reunion. Got a little controversy in the New York Times at the time, I believe.
Yeah, that was just such a long time ago. It's kind of crazy to think about, but I was in my 20s, so was he. And I think that we were, in the midst of our relationship. I don't think we were married yet, but he took me to a high school reunion, just as, I would have, I'm sure, taken him to my high school reunion. And then what happened was that, it was fine. Everyone was very nice and very friendly. But I think that what happened was that after a little while, after a few months, when he got the school newsletter reporting on the reunion in the mail, it reported that this reunion happened, that all the people came. It was a nice event. And there was a picture of the group that had posed for a reunion group picture. And he discovered, upon looking at it, just, oh, this is kind of funny. I'm not in this picture, neither is Jeannie. What? I remember being in the picture. And so ultimately, I guess they published a picture, without us in it. And he wasn't really sure what had happened. But then later, when he looked into it, the photographer admitted to him that he had created, like when he shot the photos, he created some photos that would cut off one side of the group, namely with the intention of sort of giving the school some options so that there wouldn't be only options that had me and Noah in the picture. And the picture that the school ended up publishing was one where we weren't pictured. And so that was an event that he then ended up writing about in the New York Times, and kind of reflecting on the community that he had grown up in, the school that he had gone to, and his relationship with Orthodox Judaism.
It was a modern Orthodox school. And I understand you were upset that you were cropped out of the picture that was eventually published.
At the time, I think he was upset about the incident. And this wasn't my school, and it wasn't my community at the time. So I didn't really feel upset about it so much as interested in what it meant. I was able to be more of an observer than someone who had been personally involved in the events. I think for him, it was a personal, this is his school. This is, these are his classmates. These are the people he went to, that he had graduated from the school, and he knew all the actors who would have made these kinds of decisions. And so for him, it was personal. I think for me, it was just, wow, this is something. I wonder, what would that have felt like if I had taken him to my high school reunion and this happened to him? And how would I feel about that? And what would that mean about that community?
But on the other hand, though, and I think now that you've embraced Judaism and understand more about the Jewish culture, the Jewish religion, you can understand why I don't think it was meant as anything towards you, but anybody who wasn't Jewish, they were looking not to promote a Jewish, non-Jewish relationship.
I think that's correct. I think that this was about a fear of intermarriage and of appearing to condone intermarriage. And the reason that I think it became an issue was because I didn't look Jewish. Like, it was very clear from looking at the picture that if anyone who looked at it would go, what is an Asian person doing in this picture? And then they would ask questions and be like, oh, that's Noah Feldman's girlfriend. Wait, did she convert? Oh, she didn't? Well, then what's he, So I think it would just have raised questions and probably created an uncomfortable situation for the school. And then they wouldn't have wanted to be seen as endorsing any kind of relationship like that. And they didn't, of course, know that I was thinking about converting or anything like that. So I do understand that this is about the fear of intermarriage.
Now, did that incident have any impact on your not converting at that point in time?
Well, yeah, it definitely did, mainly because it seemed like it was hard to feel like I was being welcomed or treated as somebody who could potentially be part of the community. But, I knew that this was one incident, and it was very hard to read like a whole worldview into it. But I think for my husband, for Noah, who eventually became my husband, he was able to explain to me that it was a meaningful thing, and that it was the kind of thing that he felt very turned off by. And I think that it had also to do with my appearance, like the fact that I wasn't white, or at least in some way plausibly Jewish looking, had played some role in, it at least appeared, had played some role in like a decision to exclude in like kind of a physical way. And that meant, well, maybe this community is not really ready to try to embrace and welcome someone who doesn't fit the usual model of what it means to be Jewish or even to be a convert. And so I don't know that I reflected very, very deeply on it. And it certainly wasn't the only thing that led to any decisions about conversion, but it certainly was one of the things that occurred that made me think, well, it is a little hard to feel like I would be accepted in this community.
Even though the irony is, if you look around, you go to different shuls, there are Koreans. In fact, in Manhattan, Rabbi Ephraim Buchwald, National Jewish Outreach, I believe, has a lot of Asians that attend his classes. There seems to be a lot of interest in Judaism, whether it's Chinese or Korean or others that are looking to embrace Judaism. In fact, in Korea, and maybe, you can comment on that too, I understand there is a whole group that loves Talmud, that loves Judaism. So there seems to be some fascination with Judaism in the Near East.
I think that, well, there are 2 points that you're making. One is that there's a lot of interest among Asian Americans and in Asians in Asia in Judaism. And I would say that that is true. And certainly I count myself as one of the people who from an Asian family who was always fascinated and interested in Judaism and identified with the history of Jews. And I think that there, from very early on, 20, 30 years on, I remember seeing a book on my parents' shelves that I looked at it. It was in Korean, and I looked at the title, and the title was Talmud. And I said, "What is that, Talmud?" Oh, it was a book about Talmud that they had on their shelves. And I thought to myself, wow, this is a mainstream book that's being published in Korea, so mainstream that like my parents have it. And so that was already a sign. It was something like 20 to 30 years ago that it was already true. So that's one thing. And then the other side of this that you're pointing to is that there are currently, you're observing in some congregations, there are a growing number of Asian Americans who are in attendance at synagogues, even in Orthodox shul communities. And I would have to say in the 1990s, I didn't see that. That was not the case. Some of the events that I was previously talking about were happening between, around in the late 1990s. And, I went to many, many Orthodox services during those years for all the holidays. And I believe that I was the only Asian person who I ever saw at Orthodox services in Boston and New York during that time.
Now, you say you went to different Orthodox services. Is that because of your quest of looking to learn more about Judaism? What was the reason why you went to a whole group of Orthodox services?
Oh, I think that was simply because, I was with someone who had grown up modern Orthodox. And even though he had, by that time, kind of let go of very strict observance, he still had a traditional outlook and a traditional Jewish lifestyle, let's say. I don't think that he would have called himself strictly Orthodox, but he whenever he did things, like whether it was Shabbat or any holiday observance or going to shul on a Saturday, he definitely would opt to do it Orthodox. That was the way it was. I think he felt very at home in those spaces. And so it was obvious that if I was going to observe Judaism and learn about it with him, that was the kind of Judaism that I was exposed to and that I was learning about. That was mainly because of the family connection and the larger family circumstances, including my then parents-in-law who were modern Orthodox.
And so how did your parents take to the fact that you were exploring Judaism?
Well, they, in all that time, they were often included in Shabbat. If they happened to be in town, they would be at my parents-in-law's Shabbat table. They would, if they were in town, and then sometimes they'd just be specifically invited for Passover, and they would be there at the Seder. So it, that for them, it was part of what it meant that I was involved in being a member of Noah's Jewish family, that they too were a part of that family in that way. And so I think that they took to it and with like very warm and open hearts, and never said that this was something they objected to or felt uncomfortable about. What they felt uncomfortable about was that Noah was not Korean. They felt very uncomfortable about that. And the way that they felt about it was exactly analogous to the way that Noah's parents felt about me. That it was like, it wasn't that they had a problem with me. It wasn't that they thought it was a problem that I was Korean. It's not that they would have a problem with who I was or my personality or anything like that. It was simply just, intermarriage is not good. And so I think they felt very analogously objecting to the choice of partner. And in that way, they bonded with each other.
Our guest is Professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She is a professor of law at Harvard Law School. She has written a fascinating article in New Yorker magazine, Converting to Judaism in the Wake of October 7th, and that finally, after 25 years, she became a full-fledged Jew. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. If you'd like to participate in our conversation, you can always call us at 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. Email is a wonderful way to get your questions answered. Zev at talklinenetwork.com, Zev at talklinenetwork.com. And we're just a reminder that we're still giving away some more salaminis from Milmar 3-pack packages. If you like a 3-pack package delivered to your home, all you have to do is send an email to zev at talklinenetwork.com. Give us your name, address, and zip code, and you can be a winner of a 3-pack of salamini. Also coming up a little later on, Rabbi Zushi Kunin in the Chabad of Palisades, devastated by the fires. We'll get a live report. That was the first Shabbos after the fire in California. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. This is the Talkline Network. Tired of slaving over a hot stove? Now you can enjoy the taste of homemade soup without the fuss. Mealmart's new line of shelf-stable soups are double wrapped and ready to be used in any microwave and ready in just minutes. Perfect for the home or on the go. Choose from 4 delicious flavors: chicken, mushroom, barley, hearty vegetable, and chunky vegetable. New from Mealmart homemade soups. It's like having a personal chef in your pantry.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dov Shuren, and I have the song going, Zachreinina, my hit song, which means remember me. And how can you ever forget quality? They're at a new location now with a state-of-the-art showroom at 1416 38th Street in Brooklyn, between 14th and 15th Avenue. They're serving the tri-state for over 50 years with the best in carpeting and flooring. Take down their number, 718-941-4200. Quality!
Stell sich vor eine Arbeit, wo jeder Tag machen einen Unterschied, wo jeder Tag wachsen deine Karriere und verstärken andere. Direkt stützen Professionals sind die Championen, was reden für und stützen Menschen mit entwickelten Disabilities. Sie sind die Menschen in unseren Gehirns, was sind mit keinem Mission, was ist größer für eine Arbeit. Kommt zusammen mit uns auf den Weg, was können übermachen Lebens, reingerechnet dein eigene. Anwenden zu seiner direkt stützen Professional bei directsupportcareers.com. Es ist größer für eine Arbeit. Das ist dein Mission.
You don't have to be famous to have a memoir, a book that tells the story of your life. This is New York Times bestselling author Michael Levin, and books are my babies. Your children, grandchildren, and future generations can only know you if you put your story down on paper. That's why I created Jewish Leaders Books, a place where we can tell our stories for our loved ones and friends today and for future generations tomorrow. We're the people of the book. Now it's time for your book. Whether you have a dream or a complete draft, visit jewishleadersbooks.com or call Zev Brenner at 212-769-1925, extension 100, or Zev at talklinenetwork.com. That's jewishleadersbooks.com, or reach out to Zev at 212-769-1925, extension 100, or Zev at talklinenetwork.com.
Hi, this is Trudy Stern, and I want to invite you to join me for Nothing But the Truth Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. You will hear nothing but the truth from leading elected officials and experts about world events and current issues affecting our community. So join me, Trudy Stern, Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. on Zev Brenner's Talkline Network, WSNR 620 AM, WNEW 102.7 FM HD3, and online at talklinenetwork.com. Hope you will join me. as we delve into nothing but the truth about current events that affect our community most.
WNEW 102.7 FM HD3, the nation's only Jewish FM HD channel, is searching for dynamic and engaging personalities to host our morning and evening drive radio programs. This is your chance to connect with a vibrant community and share your passion for Jewish culture, news, and entertainment. If you have a voice that resonates and a love for radio, we want to hear from you. Call 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100, or email info@talklinenetwork.com today. See you on the radio.
This is your number one station.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, on the air since 1981. Please call us with your questions and comments at 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. Or email us at zevbrenner@gmail.com.
And we're back. Our guest is Professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She is a professor of law at Harvard Law School. She's also writes for the New Yorker magazine. Her article that got a lot of response is called Converting to Judaism in the Aftermath of October 7th. She's been converting 25 years in the making. What's been the reaction, by the way, to your article in the New Yorker?
Well, I've gotten a lot of emails to my inbox, as you can probably imagine, from a lot of people in the Jewish community. A lot of people, as it turns out, have some experience that is relevant. Even if they're not converts themselves, they might have had a family member who converted, or memories of like a grandmother or a mother or a parent or a relative. And so, and because the article is, even though it's about conversion, necessarily it has a discussion of deeper issues about what it means to be a Jew, why the question of conversion really opens up those questions and problematizes some of the divisions within Jewish communities, including within Orthodox communities, about what it means to convert, how to convert, what counts as a good conversion. All of those conflicts among Jewish communities, as well as intra-Orthodox conflicts, which for some people can end up being very painful. That all of that was discussed and touched upon in this article. And so as a result, I think for a lot of people, even the article was about conversion, it was about something broader and other issues that they had felt that really touched their lives as Jews. And so I got a lot of response responding to just one aspect or another, and lots of appreciative emails, and lots of people wanted to share their family stories or their own stories or their friends' stories. And I was really fascinated by that, because the article it wasn't just about my story and the things like, issues of Jewish law. I had spent quite a bit of time reporting by interviewing other people, both rabbis involved in conversion and people who had gone through the conversion process.
But you got personal in the article. In fact, you married a second time to another Jewish man. What made you decide, after 25 years of being in a Jewish orbit, so to speak, that now is the time where you took the final plunge and said, I'm becoming a Jew?
Yeah, so I was married, as you know, to a modern Orthodox Jew for about 12 years, and then after that, I was married to my second husband, who did not grow up in an Orthodox community. He grew up in a conservative synagogue and had none of the sort of practices of an Orthodox Jew. And so it was a weird kind of reversal where my exposure to Judaism was exclusively really Orthodox Judaism. And so here I am, and I'm the one who's being like, well, this is what we do on Shabbat, and this is how we do Passover, and this is how you lead the Seder, and things like that. So it was kind of funny, because his family would come to our Seder, and I would be just sort of making it happen. And they would be like, what is this? Did you marry some religious fanatic? So I think that, so they were Jewish, but they didn't, many of them were secular, or some of them, just didn't do the kinds of things that Orthodox Jews do. So I think that after kind of decades of living like this, and living, just observing all the holidays, observing Shabbat, and raising my children with all of these traditions, and having a family life that was certainly a Jewish life, and creating that for my family, making sure that we did that. And then when October 7th happened, I think that what I'm about to say is not only true for me, but for many of the converts that I've spoken to in the course of my reporting in this article. So it's not an original thing, but something like that happens. It's a calamity, and you can feel empathetic with people who are suffering. That's one reaction, which I think some people do feel. But what I noticed about myself is that it wasn't empathy for the other. I felt like I and my people were attacked. And so it wasn't simply, I feel sympathetic to the suffering of others. It was, this is me and my people. That sense of identification was just really hard to deny in that moment. And I felt that after 25 years of living in this way, and then really understanding that I had, over that long period of time, come to not just identify with a people, but really to inside feel like a member of that people. And so I wanted to, that at that point, just conform my inner feeling and also the way I live with an official recognition.
So you decided you want to convert. So who did you choose? How did you choose the rabbi that you were going to convert with?
So I had never really, well, no, that's not true. It's not that I'd never looked into conversion. I thought about it many times. But for one reason or other, it never coalesced into an actionable path. And I would say, from my perspective, it's because on the one hand, if I had been with a person who was a member of the Reform movement or the conservative movement, and really, part of that, and I could have converted that way, I probably would have converted a long time ago. But because my exposure to Judaism was Orthodox Judaism, and that was what I knew, it seemed like Orthodox Judaism was what I associated with Judaism. And so, but I also knew, at least in the 1990s, when it became an acute issue for me in getting married and with my in-laws and my family, it was pretty clear that because my husband at the time, or that my fiance at the time, was not strictly observant, and rather just, had a more of a traditional outlook rather than a strictly observant Orthodox lifestyle, that it would become an issue. And he anticipated that would be a problem. And the kinds of conversations I had with Orthodox people made me understand that unless we together made a commitment to live a strictly Orthodox life, this was probably not going to work out. And that I would not really be accepted for conversion by conversion rabbis in that community. And so that was my understanding all along, right or wrong. That was my understanding. That's what I was told by multiple people. That was Noah's understanding, certainly. And I think I operated with that for a long time. When I made the decision after October 7th to convert, I just thought to myself, well, I'm now married to someone who says that he's not, he's never been Orthodox. He's never really even known very closely that lifestyle or known people who are strictly Orthodox. He just didn't have any. And so for him, this was me converting to Judaism was not exactly the kind of thing where he would have, been super happy about it if the decision was, okay, now we're going to live an Orthodox lifestyle. So basically and then again, I just thought I don't think this is going to happen. I talked to, I have several Orthodox friends who I've talked to about it, and I said to them, oh, well, it's really too bad. I can't convert Orthodox because I have to convert, through the Reform movement or conservative. That's fine. But it's, oh, well, that's kind of odd because my exposure to Judaism is mostly Orthodox, but whatever, I'm in this situation. What can I do? Once one Orthodox friend said, well, let me introduce you to this one rabbi I know of, named Adam Mintz. And so he didn't know him directly, but he knew him through someone else. And so through several connections, I got connected with Adam Mintz, and I talked to him for a while. I explained the situation. He talked to me, and he assessed my level of knowledge and commitment to Judaism, and he said that he would help me to convert. And he didn't think that the fact that my husband at the time, currently as my second husband, Jacob, the fact that he wasn't Orthodox, he didn't think that was going to be an obstacle for his agreeing to convert me. So that was really that was the last obstacle. And once that obstacle wasn't there, and then I was able to convert, then it was smooth sailing from there.
And you did go through a course of study for several months with Rabbi Mintz?
Yes, exactly. So, and I still study with him on a weekly basis or more. So it's an ongoing study. But I studied with him. I attended his Talmud class. And after several months, I did go to the mikveh.
Now, the fact that your husband is not Orthodox, does that make it harder for you to be a practicing Orthodox Jew?
Well, it certainly results in some conversations that, there's some conversations between husband and wife. There are many conversations that may have several levels of, tension and conflict, and it does create that. But, he's come along, and somebody who said with all seriousness at some point in our relationship, like, no, there's no way am I ever keeping kosher, is now keeping kosher. And, and the other day, I went downstairs, and there he was koshering some forks that had accidentally become trafed up. So this is not something that he ever thought he would be doing, but he's doing it. And he's not doing it like kicking and screaming. He's doing it because it's part of our life, and it's something he now feels good about.
Stan and Forrestal, thank you for waiting. Your question for our guest. Go ahead, Stan.
Very fascinating. How are you, counselor? Congratulations and welcome to the tribe.
Thank you so much.
I have two or three questions, but I don't know if they're allowed. The first one is, why you said it took 25 years. Actually, if you think about it, and I don't mean it in a bad way, it took the attack by Hamas on the Jews to get you to convert. That's what really did it.
I'm not sure that's true, but go on.
You know what I'm saying? I don't. That situation, that crisis, made you decide. Am I correct? That crisis, am I right on that?
Well, yes and no. On the one hand, there were many points in my life in the 25 years where I said, I really want to convert. But then for one reason or other, it didn't happen, for some of the reasons that I've explained. But after October 7th, somehow I think things aligned so that, the person I happened to be speaking to, then it introduced me the right person. And then it happened. If I had met Adam Mintz earlier in my journey, perhaps I would have been able to do it earlier. But this was the timing that actually occurred. I'm not sure that October 7th was absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a catalyst because you felt the kinship that Jews are in danger, and you want to be part of that group.
Yes, it's not so much that it's more than I wanted to be. I knew that I was part of that group.
Let me ask this question. Very important. You do. There is a central synagogue in New York that
Correct.
has a Eurasian rabbi. You do know that, and I'm thinking maybe you might have been comfortable talking with her. She does a podcast. She's very popular. Do you know about that synagogue and that rabbi in New York City?
So funny you should ask.
Read the article in the New York Magazine. Go ahead.
My New York,
I'm not trying. You know what I'm saying.
my New Yorker
Hold
article.
on. She's going to answer your question. Hold on,
I'm
Stanley.
going to answer your question. So
Oh, sure.
I'm not going to fault you for not reading my article, but I would direct you to read it because there's a big discussion of Angela Bookdahl, who is the Korean American rabbi of Central Synagogue. She has been my friend since the 1990s when we went to college together. And so, of course, I've known about her Jewish life and her Jewish career as a rabbi for a long, long time. And so she is somebody who is involved in my Jewish journey.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't know if you, I would suspect you knew about her because she's fantastic. I've seen her on TV.
Oh, yes.
Good.
Yes.
Anyway, good luck and continue on with your journey in Judaism.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you for your call. We appreciate that. Okay, we'll get to some more phone calls and some emails as well. Just before we break, so here you are, you go through this conversion process. You've had 25 years of experience, so you know a lot about Judaism. And Rabbi Adam Mintz, who we had him on the program a couple of weeks ago, converts you. But are you, I'm sure you're aware, and how big of a problem is that I know he's trying to get his conversions recognized in Israel, but it's not. But if you went to Israel, they would not recognize you as a Jew, at least according to the rabbinate.
Yeah, so I have thought a lot about these kinds of questions. It's, in the course of my work on and research and also in writing this article, lots of Jewish communities don't recognize each other's conversions. And Orthodox communities sometimes don't recognize conversions of other Orthodox communities, and certainly they don't recognize Reform conversions, and so on and so forth. So I think this situation of their local communities or national communities or larger communities of denominations that have their own standards, and then if you wanted to be part of a different community, then you'd have to work with that community to do what it took to be accepted as a Jew in that community. I am comfortable with that situation. If I ever wanted to make Aliyah, and if the conversion was not accepted for the purposes that I needed them to be accepted for, then I would figure out what to do then. But I do think the general situation of conversion in Judaism, there is no one size fits all from what I have seen. That it is just it's always a local situation. And so right now I feel happy and comfortable and secure. I am a Jew, and that I have had a halakhic conversion, and I will be accepted by those who accept that conversion. That's all there is to it.
Our guest is Harvard Law Professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She's written a fascinating article, Converting to Judaism in the Aftermath of October 7th. We're going to be right back. And we'll take some more of your phone calls, 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. You can email us, zev@talklinenetwork.com, zev@talklinenetwork.com. Coming up a little later on, we'll take you to California. We'll speak to Chabad Rabbi Zushi Kunin about the burning of the Palisade Jewish Community Center, the Chabad Center. The Torahs were rescued, the shul is intact, but hundreds of people without homes. We'll get a first-hand report about what's going on. Keep those emails coming. If you'd like to win a 3-pack of Meal Mart's salami salad, it's delicious. I may not pronounce it correctly right now, but it's delicious. 3-pack of salamini delivered to your home. Send me an email to zev@talklinenetwork.com. You must include your name, address, and zip code in order to qualify. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Talkline Network. Tired of slaving over a hot stove? Now you can enjoy the taste of homemade soup without the fuss. Meal Mart's new line of shelf-stable soups are double wrapped and ready to be used in any microwave and ready in just minutes. Perfect for the home or on the go. Choose from 4 delicious flavors: chicken, mushroom, barley, hearty vegetable, and chunky vegetable. New from Meal Mart, homemade soups. It's like having a personal chef in your pantry.
Tired of foot pain slowing you down? Hi, I'm Dr. Uriel Levy, a board-certified podiatrist with 33 years of experience, here to get you back on your feet. And great news, Brooklyn. I just opened up a brand new office in Flatbush at the 1911 Avenue L Medical Center of Dr. Kogel. I specialize in orthopedic and medical foot issues, crafting and prescribing custom-made orthotics, from between 75 to 100 patients every week. That's a lot of happy feet. For those who have Medicaid managed care, orthopedic shoes would be covered if you are in medical need of custom-made orthotics. Whether it's plantar fasciitis, bunions, or just everyday aches, don't let foot pain hold you back. Also, I practice reflexology, combining my knowledge of feet and lower extremity issues with Eastern medicine. I like to think of myself as a soul healer, not just a podiatrist. Visit my new Flatbush office at 1911 Avenue L, right across from the Women's Mikvah, and around the block from Young Israel of Midwood. Or my Borough Park office at 1453 44th Street, or in Muncie at 4 Horizon Court. Please call me at 917-930-5800. That's 917-930-5800, or visit dr.soulhealer.com. The easiest way to schedule your appointment is through 917-930-5800. Let your feet bring good news this year. Yeshua's in the Chamas for all of Klal Yisrael. Don't give in to defeat.
Hi, this is Yaakov Sura from the Queens Jewish Link. I just wanted to remind you that Queens Jewish Link is distributed door to door in Kew Garden Hills. It's distributed in Long Island, 5 towns, Great Neck, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and now we are also reporting from our all local news, national news, international news, and all the news from Israel. And please, if you're interested in advertising, just give me a call, Yaakov Searle, 917-549-6145, 917-549-6145. That's 917-549-6145.
Hi, I'm New York State Assemblyman Ari Brown. I'm inviting you to a very special event tomorrow, Sunday, January 12th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Chabad of the Beaches in Long Beach. I'm hosting a kidney donation awareness and swabbing drive, and as someone who's donated a kidney myself, I can tell you it's more than just saving one person. It's about saving families, communities, and giving hope to those who desperately need it. By simply getting swabbed, you could be the match to someone who's been waiting a very, very long time. You can change a life forever. You know, this is very personal. It's a personal mission for me. So please, come down tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 570 West Walnut Street in Long Beach. Join me and let's work together to save lives. Thank you.
Stell sich vor eine Arbeit, wo jeder Tag ihr machen einen Unterschied, wo jeder Tag ihr wachsen deine Karriere und verstärken andere. Direkt stützen Professionals sind die Championen, was reden für und stützen Menschen mit Entwicklung Disabilities. Sie sind die Menschen in unserer Gehirns, was sind mit keinem Mission, was ist größer für eine Arbeit. Kommt zusammen mit uns auf den Weg, was können übermachen Lebens, reingerechnet an eigene. Anwenden zu seiner direkt stützen Professional bei directsupportcareers.com. Es ist größer für eine Arbeit. Das ist dein Mission.
Are you looking to create extra income for yourself or for your family? Well, Talkline Network is looking for go-getters who are looking to generate more money by getting involved in the lucrative world of selling radio and TV time, as well as commercials and podcasts. You can work part-time or full-time. We pay high commissions for those that are motivated to sell radio and TV time. If you're interested, please contact us at 212-769-1925, extension 100, 212-769-1925, extension 100, or info@talklinenetwork.com. Ideal for students, for retirees, for housewives, anybody looking to generate extra income. Again, that's 212-769-1925, extension 100, or info@talklinenetwork.com.
This is your number one station.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981. Please call us with your questions and comments at 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. Or email us at zevbrenner@gmail.com.
And we're back. Our guest is Harvard Law Professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She converted to Judaism in the wake of October 7th. She's also a contributing writer to the New Yorker magazine, where she did a whole article on this very subject, more is personal about other people who've converted to Judaism. We have a bunch of calls. Let me just read one quick email before we get to some of the calls. And BC writes, beautiful story. Your guest will be interested to know that Rabbi Adam Mintz's grandfather was a very prominent Orthodox rabbi at the Talmud Torah of Flatbush for 50 years.
That's yes, I was aware of Adam Mintz's history, mainly because I interviewed him at great length for the article that I wrote. And yes, that is extremely interesting.
Let's go to Aryeh in Flatbush. Aryeh, you have a question or comment for our guest. Go ahead, Aryeh.
Yeah, I mean, it's very impressive that Adam Mintz's lineage is great, but unfortunately, his lineage did not convert you. Did you ever bother to, before you went off on that commentary about how conversions is not one size fits all, did you ever bother to find out why Adam Mintz's conversions are not acceptable by a lot of the Orthodox rabbinate in Israel?
Well, first of all, in Israel, according to a Supreme Court ruling, there currently it is the case that Reform conversions, conservative conversions, and Orthodox conversions all legally must be accepted for the purpose of making Aliyah.
The law of return.
Yes. So for the law of return. Now, when we're talking about are they accepted, are they not accepted, we're talking about the way in which the chief rabbinate.
Hold on, let her finish. She doesn't understand that. She's making a case. Go ahead.
The chief, so those are two separate questions, whether the chief rabbinate is going to accept certain conversions as Orthodox conversions. Now there's a interesting situation that Reform conversions are going to be accepted, for the purposes of the law of return, but in terms of the chief rabbinate, for the purposes of the chief rabbinate, they're only accepting certain kinds of conversions from a slice of the Orthodox community. And I happen to also know that that's not one size fits all in terms of the anecdotal evidence that we have. So I don't think that it's actually accurate to say people who have converted with Adam Mintz are not able to then make Aliyah and be accepted in Israel for purposes that the chief rabbinate controls. That's not the same thing as saying that automatically Adam Mintz's conversions will be accepted, but nor is it the case that any conversions, no matter where you have them, through what authority, will they be accepted automatically anywhere?
Well, many rabbis are automatically accepted. Do you know the reasons why Adam Mintz's conversions are not accepted? Because I can tell you right now. Well,
by the way, Barbara, let me just also add that there are plenty of Orthodox rabbis that conversions are not accepted. The Rabbinical Council of America, they are. You have certain other rabbis. Not every Orthodox rabbi's conversion are accepted in Israel. I know you're aware of that, are you, right?
Yeah, Adam Mintz is a prime example. He considers himself an Orthodox rabbi.
Well, he is an Orthodox rabbi. He is an Orthodox rabbi.
The reason is because he converts homosexuals, practicing homosexuals, and transgenders. And he manipulates the halacha in order to make it look like he's following it. And it's a complete fraud.
Hold on.
So may I say something?
Yes.
So, Aryeh, is that your name?
Yes.
Okay, so Aryeh, I am not sure if you are authorized to speak on behalf of the chief rabbinate. So I am not sure if you are speaking on authority of the chief rabbinate to say that that is the reason that Adam Mintz's conversions are not accepted. So I have no idea about that. I do not know the exact reason.
So hold on one second, but you haven't spoken to the chief rabbinate either, have you?
I'm taking by your silence. I'm taking by your silence that you do not have a letter from the chief rabbinate saying this is the reason, that it's because of gay and transgender.
Well, let me ask you something. I mean, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and acts like a duck,
but you have to have
you're
proof.
say maybe it's not a duck. What do you think it is?
Do you think it's a particular? Do you think this is the way that Jews argue with each other by talking like this instead of actually pointing to evidence and text?
Listen, okay, I'm a lawyer myself, okay, and I'm also a writer.
I'm very glad for you.
Yeah, but we're not in a courtroom, okay, and we're not concerned with the secular law that's a non sequitur.
No, we're concerned with Jewish law, And we're also
Right.
concerned with evidence. And so if you're saying that you are speaking on behalf of the chief rabbi of Israel, because I know for a fact that Adam Mintz is not speaking for the chief rabbi of Israel. He's speaking according to his authority as a rabbi and an interpreter of Jewish law. Now, you may also have your own interpretation of Jewish law. You are also able to interpret Jewish law, but you are not doing that on behalf of the chief rabbinate of Israel.
And Ari, you made your point. I appreciate it. Thank you for your phone call. Let's go to Mordechai in Kensington. Your question for our guest. Go ahead, Mordechai.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Shavua Tov. Yeah, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Your question or comment is?
Yeah, I'm very impressed by your fascinating life. And I know you spoke about your parents and your in-laws. I thought I heard something about children. And I'm wondering if that's true. How does that, what you're doing affect them and the whole scene with the children, because that's a courageous thing to do also.
Thank you for the question. Of course, my Jewish journey involved a family life, as family life is central to Judaism. And I had 2 children along the way with my first husband. I now have 2 stepchildren with my my second husband who had children before we got married. And so we have had a family life that's, a blended family. And so my children are considered Jews by those who consider Jews, to Judaism to be passed patrilineally. And so they have had a life where they have been considered Jews by the family. Of course, we all know that halachically, they are not Jewish, but they have a strong Jewish identity because of the life that they have led and that the family life that we have. And when I went to actually complete my conversion, I had a talk with all of the kids, including my stepkids, to say, listen, I'm doing this, and you all know the situation. And they do. And I said, you can do this too. You can go convert and go to the mikvah, and that is available for you. And what they said at the time is, each of them feels that it's their own journey and that they know that this is available as a possibility in the future. And, what I think is at some point, if it is something that they want to do, maybe because they want to marry someone from a family for whom it really matters, then that's always there. They've seen me do it. And so that's how it is. I think our family is ineluctably a Jewish family in the sense that we do things that Jews do. And I went from being the least Jewish member of the family because I wasn't halakhically Jewish, nor had I been raised that way. And now I am probably in some way the most Jewish member in at least my observance of my entire family.
How old are your children, by the way?
My children are between so basically I have 2 children who are biologically my children who are around 18, about to turn 18, and 19, and then 2 stepchildren who are 16 and 19.
Does that answer your question, Mordechai?
Yeah, I just had one more with
sure, go right ahead.
The article that you wrote, is that accessible online? And how
it is.
Do it?
So, Zev, do you want to answer?
Yeah, I'm going to say, when you go to our YouTube page, you will find it. We will put the link on the YouTube page because we have this on YouTube. It's live on YouTube, and it's going to be after the broadcast. You'll be able to retrieve it. You'll be able to click on to the New Yorker article.
And you could always Google my name. You could always Google my name and conversion and New Yorker, and it'll come up.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
So when you converted, did that affect, for example, your marriage? Are you required to go through another marriage? I'm sure you've been asked this question before.
Yes, of course. We had a civil marriage. years ago, and that marriage was performed by a justice of the Supreme Court, Elena Kagan, who was my former boss as the dean of Harvard Law School, and she performed the marriage in the Supreme Court of the United States, and we had not had a Jewish wedding, and recently, after my conversion, we did have a Jewish wedding that Adam Mintz was able to preside over, and it was beautiful.
Okay. Now, in your article, you also wrote to other people that are exploring Judaism. From what you've written, and I know this to be a fact, that not only non-Jews are interested in becoming Jews, even Jews who are marginally Jewish are becoming more Jewish. It's woken a lot of people up. And you would think it's counterintuitive. You would think when Israel's under attack and Jews are being killed and anti-Semitism is at great heights in the United States and in Europe, you think you would have less people being interested in Judaism, but the opposite is true. And I know you chronicled that in your article.
Yes, so conversion is only kind of the tip of the iceberg, because we're talking about the decision to become a Jew in the wake of a wave of and spikes of anti-Semitism all over the world. But Jews who were already Jews and therefore didn't need to convert, instead of moving away from Judaism, what you're seeing being reported by a lot of congregations and rabbis is that services are fuller, there are more people signing up for things like Hebrew school and like wanting to, teach their children Hebrew and about Judaism. And so that has been an interesting development, and maybe it is counterintuitive, but I do believe it's related to the thing that I talked about earlier in this hour, which is that sense of identification with, and a sense of, just saying this suffering and this horror is not just something that is happening that's a horrific thing, but it's also because of an identity, a history, and something that we can take pride in. And so a feeling of wanting to be with the people, with your people, I think is motivating a lot of Jews, and then people who have been aware and interested in Judaism for a long time have become more and more intensely drawn to it.
What was your biggest challenge once you officially embraced Judaism, went through the conversion process? What was your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge once I went through it, so once I was actually a Jew, what I would have to say that my biggest challenge was getting on the same page with my husband about what it meant to keep kosher, what it meant to observe the Sabbath, just changing how we did things at home. And these are things that don't happen just by snapping your fingers. For some people, it's natural because that's how they grew up. And for other people, who they have to be deliberative about it and talk about it, and for someone like my husband, who didn't have that kind of Jewish education growing up, he had a bar mitzvah, but he had never actually studied the laws of kashrut or Shabbat or things like that. He was only kind of peripherally aware of some of those laws. And I think that it turned out that my having spent time around Orthodox family life for a long time, they had become more like second nature to me than I had realized. And so the gap between my, I would say, sensibilities and instincts about this stuff was, and his sensibilities and instincts, there was a gap. And so I think bridging that and making sure that we got through it without too much conflict and alienation. And I remember him at some point just exasperatedly throwing up his hands and going, "Isn't all this weird? Isn't it just weird to do all this kosher stuff?" And I looked at him and said, your answers to your ancestors have been doing this for thousands of years. And that's, and so we've been moving through it.
Now, did you ever tell your parents that they're having in their library Talmud, that book, led you many years later on to embrace Talmud and Judaism?
I don't know that I've specifically informed them, because in a way it wasn't just one thing. It was really, I think, about everything, in every way that I was raised with a love of studying texts and with books and ideas. And also my parents did have a big interest in Israel and in Judaism growing up. It was very clear that they too found Judaism very interesting and identified with Jewish people. And so I never actually told them about any particular thing, but I feel like they intuitively understand.
Did you have any contact with Chabad during the course of time? Because I know they have a lot of time to go through Chabad.
Of course. I guess throughout my journey, I have had contact with Chabad and Chabad rabbis over the years. Probably the first Chabad rabbi I ever met was Shmuley Boteach in Oxford when I was studying there in the 1990s. He was the head of the Chabad in Oxford for a number of years. And so I had been to Shabbat dinner there a number of times, and so I became very acquainted with him. There was a lot of warmth from Chabad and from the Chabad rabbis that I had met over the years. And that, of course, I appreciated very much.
And now you have a connection with Chabad in Harvard.
Yeah, at Harvard, the two Orthodox communities are Chabad at Harvard and also the Orthodox Minyan at the Hillel, and I do, I do attend services at either one of them.
Our guest is Harvard law professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She's written a fascinating article in the New Yorker called "Converting to Judaism in the Wake of October 7th." We're going to be right back. We'll continue taking some more of your phone calls. 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. Email is a wonderful way to get some of your questions answered. Zev@talklinenetwork.com, Zev@talklinenetwork.com. We're still giving away some more Salominis from Mealmart. Keep sending me those emails. Please put in the byline, Mealmart or Salimi. In the byline, give us your name, address, and zip code, and we're going to give out some more of that delicious product. It's a 3-pack delivered to your home. Coming up a little while, we'll take it to California, to the scene of devastation. I just got a text from one of our listeners in California. The fire next door to his home, just devastating. The tragedy is taking place in California. We'll speak to Rabbi Zusha Kunin of Chabad of Palisades about what is going on and the first Shabbos after the fire. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. This is the Talkline Network. Tired of slaving over a hot stove? Now you can enjoy the taste of homemade soup without the fuss. Mealmart's new line of shelf-stable soups are double wrapped and ready to be used in any microwave and ready in just minutes. Perfect for the home or on the go. Choose from 4 delicious flavors: chicken, mushroom, barley, hearty vegetable, and chunky vegetable. New from Mealmart homemade soups. It's like having a personal chef in your pantry.
Imagine a job where every day is about making a difference, where every day you're growing your career and empowering others. Direct support professionals are the champions who advocate for and support people with developmental disabilities. They are the people in our community fulfilling a calling that's more than work. Join us on a path that transforms lives, including your own. Apply to be a direct support professional at directsupportcareers.com. It's more than work. It's your calling.
Hey, this is Alan Dershowitz, inviting you to tune into the Dersh Show, where we discuss the most important issues of the day. You know, the Dersh Show, all it's missing is the wits, and that's what I need you for, to provide the wits. We broadcast Monday through Thursday evenings at 11 p.m., courtesy of Rumble on TalklineNetwork.com and our 24-hour listening line at 641-793-0382. Please join us on the Dersh Show to really get a grasp of what's going on in our world today, and you'll hear it directly from me through my lens, which you know is always going to be your lens. So thank you.
And by the way, you can tune us in to Alan Dershowitz every Monday through Thursday evening, 11 p.m. on WNEW 102.7 FM HD3. We're America's only Jewish FM HD channel. And if you're going to be in your car anytime soon, just please go to your FM dial, tune in 102.7 FM, press the HD button. You see HD3 light up, and lock us into your favorite station. And we greatly appreciate it, getting a lot of good feedback. So we're 24 hours a day, America's only Jewish FM HD channels. So check us out. Also available at talklinenetwork.com, talklinenetwork.com. And we, of course, greatly appreciate your feedback to our programming on the station. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
You don't have to be famous to have a memoir, a book that tells the story of your life. This is New York Times bestselling author Michael Levin, and books are my babies. Your children, grandchildren, and future generations can only know you if you put your story down on paper. That's why I created Jewish Leaders Books, a place where we can tell our stories for our loved ones and friends today and for future generations tomorrow. We're the people of the book. Now it's time for your book. Whether you have a dream or a complete draft, visit jewishleadersbooks.com or call Zev Brenner at 212-769-1925, extension 100, or Zev at talklinenetwork.com. That's jewishleadersbooks.com, or reach out to Zev at 212-769-1925, extension 100, or Zev at talklinenetwork.com.
Are you seeking legal expertise backed by decades of experience? Look no further than Gurriera, Feldman, and Williams. For over 20 years, our dedicated team has navigated the complexities of real estate planning, including wills, trusts, and estates, surrogate court matters, and landlord-tenant law. But what truly sets us apart? Our attorneys don't just represent clients. They invest their hearts in every case. Passionate, committed, and relentless. That's the Gurriera, Feldman, and Williams way. Call us at 212-533-6800 for a consultation. That's 212-533-6800. Gurriera, Feldman, and Williams, the compassionate lawyers.
This is your number one station.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, on the air since 1981. Please call us with your questions and comments at 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. Or email us at zevbrenner@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to...
Okay, we are back. Harvard Law Professor Jeannie Suk Gersen is our guest. She has written a fascinating article. She's a contributing writer to The New Yorker, Converting to Judaism in the wake of October 7th. Let's take an email, then we're going to get to some of your phone calls as well. Here's an email coming in. Professor, why didn't Jeannie convert through a nationally accepted Orthodox rabbi organization versus Rabbi Mintz, who is known to be controversial and not recognized by many Jewish organizations?
Well, Rabbi Mintz is recognized by some Jewish organizations, and I know that there are no conversions in the United States that are accepted by absolutely every Jewish organization. And so the basic situation is that I converted with Rabbi Mintz because he is an Orthodox rabbi, a respected one, and also because he was the rabbi that I connected with and felt comfortable with, and who understood my needs as a convert and dealt with me in a way that was understanding, compassionate, and rigorous. And so I felt that I wanted to have a halakhic conversion, but you might be wondering, like, why didn't you just go through the RCA? Well, if you think the RCA would have converted someone who didn't have a strictly Orthodox husband, well, that would be news to me, and my own research revealed that probably would have become a problem, and probably my conversion might not have happened at, for example, like I might not be Jewish right now. I might not be talking to you right now as a Jew. Maybe.
And that was important to you, obviously.
Obviously it was important to me. And also I don't get to control what the RCA standards are, nor do I get to control what other people, for example, my husband, are going to be, doing. And, he's a Jew. He does not need to jump through the hoops that converts sometimes have to jump through. And for me, the rigor and the compassion and the really utterly, the utterly integrity laden approach of Rabbi Mintz was the one that appealed to me and felt very consistent with what halakhic and Orthodox standards should be.
Let's go to Rabbi Leiter in Rockland County, New York. Your question or comment for our guests. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking the call. Professor, first I want to commend you and many other people who look to Judaism as the place where they want to be. And I want to extend that to people who are Jewish, who have made that move, and those who have not, and those who have made it, in their opinion, whether or not it's accepted by all or actually halakhically legitimate. I want to acknowledge the goodwill on the part of those people. There are many people, of course, that attempt to do that, and due to factors beyond their control, may not be being sold, the bill of goods that they are intending on buying. But regardless, I think that we have to acknowledge the goodwill of all these different types of people, and with that preface, I just want to indicate that at the outset here, what I'm going to ask or state here is not to diminish the importance and the value of what someone like yourself is doing, but I think that we have to separate the individual convert or a prospective convert, in whatever the case may be.
So your question or comment is?
How can one describe Adam Mintz as someone who has integrity when his positions on LGBT issues squarely fly in the face of halakhic Judaism?
I think
specifically referring to the fact that he will convert someone that's a flagrant practitioner of sodomy, knowing that their declaration that they will follow the mitzvahs taken on the steps of the mikveh is false.
First of all, we asked Rabbi Mintz this question. You're making an assumption that he knows that they're going to continue with those practices. He may not check afterwards, but at that moment in time, they make a commitment. And that's what he said. I'm just telling you what he said on this program, but I'm going to let the professor respond to you.
Yes, thank you. I would like to respond. And mainly I'd like to respond by saying I'm here as myself, and I have the expertise that I have and the experiences that I have. I am not an Orthodox rabbi, and even though I have studied Jewish law, I am not here to opine about rabbinic practices. I'm here to opine and to describe my own experience. So if you would like to have a discussion or disquisition and a questioning of Adam Mintz, I think you should do that elsewhere, not on this program with me here.
Correct, but you made a statement about him, and I just wanted to clarify your perception. And it's people are entitled to make their mistakes. That's fine. I'm not holding it against you personally at all. I think I made that very clear.
Are you saying that she made a mistake by converting with Rabbi Adam Mintz?
Or are you saying that I made a mistake by describing him as a person or a rabbi of integrity? I think that that's what you were getting at. And I understand you were expressing your view that you disagree with that view, and fine. But that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Anyway, when we had Rabbi Mintz on, we've had him on. We'll probably have him on again, and you're welcome to call in and direct those questions.
I emailed the email that you read, where basically I indicated that your two questions refuted his claim to being a expositor of halakhic Judaism. What he exposits is not halakhic Judaism.
Again, it's unfair to the professor. What beefs you have with Rabbi Mintz, and that could be taken up in another program.
You are entitled to your opinion about Adam Mintz and about halakhic opinion, but there are many rabbis who would disagree with you as well.
Well, it's not a matter of me or them. It's a matter of what the halakha states. And the halakha is very clear that someone who is flagrantly showing by his actions he is not going to abide by the prohibition of sodomy, which is considered even amongst abominations an abomination, as Amal points out on.
Do you have on authority of Adam Mintz that he will convert someone when they flagrantly say that I am going to engage in sodomy from now on? I don't think you do.
And on the air, he said the same thing, that at that moment in time, they make a commitment to adhere to the Jewish law, to halacha. Anyway, thank you for your phone call. I appreciate that. But those questions, I think we may be best directed to Rabbi Mintz, but it was discussed on the program we had him on with that. What are the things that you like most about Orthodox Judaism?
Well, I think the things that I like most about Orthodox Judaism are that for the most part, there is an incredible toleration of disagreement and of interpretation. That there isn't, the previous caller, just the attitude of like halacha is halacha. Well, very rarely in a Jewish context have I heard that attitude. It's always been, well, halakha, it's all about interpretation. And there, when you study the Talmud, it's about the range of opinions and authorities and all of the different disagreements that have happened over thousands of years. And so I think that that kind of space for argument and of respect for division of authority is what I have most appreciated about Judaism and about Orthodox Judaism, which really preserves that kind of approach.
The family life, the Shabbos, the spirit, listen, even though you've heard some negative things, and people may feel uncomfortable with Rabbi Adam Mintz, but overall, the community is very supportive. They're very charitable, whether it's Hatzalah, helping other people, giving organs, kidney transplants. This is something which is all part of the community. We're all one family. And that's a wonderful feeling. I'm sure you probably experienced that.
I do feel that way. And I feel very much that warmth, the warmth of the embrace of the community, that feeling of being connected to a tradition that has been going on for such a long time and that will stretch on in the future. That's what really binds me to Judaism, and I feel very, very grateful to be part of it.
George of Manhattan, you have a question or comment for our guest. Go ahead, George.
Yes, ma'am. Most of my Orthodox Jewish friends are older and probably a lot wiser than the current crop. How would you define Judaism? Is it a religion to you? Or is it belief? I mean, because it can't stand the true intellectual scrutiny that would, because of what we have in America is relatively a new form of Judaism. What
do you mean by a new form of Judaism? Hold on, what do you mean by a new form of Judaism?
Well, we know that in Europe in the 1800s, there was a council and they sat down and they redefined Judaism that would more or less appeal to the Western culture. So, I mean, the thing is, I want to know, how does she see it? Is it a religion? And Rabbi, you can I'm sorry, Zev, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Judaism wasn't redefined in Europe. Listen, Judaism came to America. You had after World War II, you saw a revival of Orthodox Judaism. To give you a little bit of a history, in the early days, I think Reform Judaism was ascendant. Conservative Judaism had its moment. After World War II, after the Holocaust, you found an influx of Orthodox Jews that revitalized Orthodox Judaism in America, and that's been the growth steadily since 1945. But I'll let the professor.
So you're saying what you're saying actually is it's a work in progress over here. Right? Anyway, ma'am, would you tell me, how do you see it, as a faith or whatever? I mean, what is your attachment to it?
I see Judaism as a faith. I see it also as a tribe. I see it as a culture and a lifestyle and a code of laws. So I see it as all of those things rolled up in one.
I'm sorry. You don't see it as a race, though, do you?
Well, how do people interpret the concept of tribe?
Okay.
Some people, I mean, I see it as a tribe, and some people might say, well, what is a tribe? Does a tribe have a racial component? Does it have an ethnic component? Maybe for some people, but primarily I see it as a group a culture, a lifestyle, a faith. It's all of those things. And that's kind of the richness of Judaism, that you can't just sort of separate one from the other. They're all together and they're all rolled up in one. There may be Jews who mainly emphasize the legal component, and there may be some Jews who don't embrace the legal component at all and who just think of it as a culture, and some people who may think of it as a faith. I think of it as all of those things all at once.
Your question and comment for our guests. Go ahead. Brooklyn, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Just wondering, I know you made the commitment to Judaism, I know you converted, but did it ever pass your mind that, let's say, just being a righteous Gentile and you wouldn't have as many obligations?
Yes, it did. Of course, as a righteous Gentile, I did understand that by taking on the commitment to actually become a convert to Judaism, that there would be hundreds of mitzvot to which I would actually be legally bound. And that is exactly what I considered. And I think for all converts, that's the main consideration, that you have to think of it not as just, oh, I want to be part of this, but also it's a burden, an obligation that you're taking on. And so, yes, of course, I considered all of that. And is there a question there? Like, why did you do that? Like, well, what kind of crazy thing is that to do?
No, there's a famous story from 48 years ago. There was a fellow who was going to get married. I'll say it very quickly. And he didn't know until they checked out his lineage somehow. I guess his father died when he was young, whatever. But that he wasn't Jewish. He never went. His mother never went to a conversion, but he went to Jewish schools from the youngest age, and he considered himself Jewish. And then when he found out he wasn't, he cut his payas, and he said, "Okay."
Right.
Okay.
Is that the question?
1 second. I think we think we lost him. We'll get him.
But I think I get where he's getting at. So it's really interesting. I think sometime in my 20s, there was a news item about Madeleine Albright, who was the Secretary of State, and she had grown up not Jewish and not thought of herself as Jewish and never understood that she had Jewish parents. But suddenly it was discovered when she was Secretary of State that her parents had hid their Judaism and had in fact been Jews in Europe, and she, was surprised to learn about this. And I remember when this happened, I found it fascinating, and I talked to Jews that I was friends with about it. And what was so fascinating is that some of the Reform Jews that I was friends with, when I asked them, like, well, what about the reverse? What if you found out suddenly that somehow you had been switched at birth in the hospital and you actually weren't descended from Jews at all? And that you're not actually, your parents are Jewish, but that you grew up with, but you were not actually descended from Jews. And they said, well, that wouldn't make any difference to me. I would obviously still consider myself Jewish, and I would do all the things that I would normally do, and if needed, I would convert if that was what was needed. And then, interestingly, I did talk to some Orthodox Jews, and I asked them, well, what would happen if you discovered that you weren't actually Jewish? And they said, well, then then I would be happy to be a righteous Gentile, and I wouldn't, I'd be like, okay, I don't have these obligations. So that was really interesting.
You have about, according to Jewish law, non-Jews have 7 Noahide laws, which actually come out to 35 laws, if I remember correctly. So there are still some laws that have to be adhered to. But as you were talking, you reminded me of a case, and I hope I'm getting it correctly. It was a priest by the name of Brother or Father Daniel, who grew up Jewish and became a priest. And he wanted to go to Israel under the law of return. This goes back decades ago. So I believe it was the ultra-religious parties, the Good at Israel, that said he should be accepted under the law of return because he was born Jewish. And there's the reform groups who were saying that since he's a priest, he should not be accepted under the law of return. A very interesting case. I believe it's the Brother Daniel case from many, many years ago. So the many different ways of looking at it and things. And again, it's something which at the end of the day in Israel also boils down to who is a Jew. That's what it also boils down to in Israel. So when you have under the law of return where you can come in with a conservative reform or Orthodox conversion of any kind, except under the law of return, but the chief rabbinate has a lot of other issues that they deal with, and they control their aspects of, Jewish religious life in Israel. So there is some tension between the two in Israel. Have you been to Israel?
Yes, I have.
With your husband? Was that before October 7th or prior?
Yes,
to?
it was prior to years ago, and I did visit Israel, and I would love to go there again.
Our guest for only a little while longer, Harvard law professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She has written a fascinating article, Converting to Judaism in the Wake of October 7th, which you can read in the New Yorker. We'll post it on our YouTube page as well. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. And we'll continue taking some of your phone calls, 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. If you are a convert listening to us tonight, we'd especially love to hear from you. That's 212-769-1925. Email is a wonderful way to have your questions answered. Zev at talklinenetwork.com. Coming up a little later on, we'll be going to California to speak to Rabbi Zushi Kunin of Chabad of Palisades, who had hundreds of his congregants lost their home. We'll talk to him about what transpired. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. This is the Talkline Network here on WSNR 620 AM.
Hey, this is Alan Dershowitz. One of the most important Jewish institutions in the world today is Talkline with Zev Brenner. He is so smart, and he is so innovative, and he has so many interesting guests. I don't know what Yiddishkeit, I don't know what New York, I don't know what the world would do without Zev. So Zev, Yasher Koach, may you go from strength to strength and keep informing us and educating us and keep fighting for Jewish values.
Tired of slaving over a hot stove? Now you can enjoy the taste of homemade soup without the fuss. Meal Mart's new line of shelf-stable soups are double wrapped and ready to be used in any microwave and ready in just minutes. Perfect for the home or on the go. Choose from 4 delicious flavors: chicken, mushroom, barley, hearty vegetable, and chunky vegetable. New from Meal Mart homemade soups. It's like having a personal chef in your pantry.
You don't want to miss the Queens Jewish Link Bar Mitzvah celebration. It's the networking event of the year, celebrating their 600th issue, February 26th at 6:30 p.m. Networking begins at 7:30. You must RSVP to learn the venue. That's at 917-549-6145, 917-549-6145. queensjewishlink@gmail.com. Amongst the honorees, the King David Award honoring Sid Rosenberg and the Jewish Leadership Award honoring Dr. Joe Frager and the Jewish Activism Award honoring Dr. Paul Brody.
Stell sich vor eine Arbeit, wo jeder Tag ihr machen einen Unterschied, wo jeder Tag ihr wachsen deine Karriere und verstärken andere. Direkt stützen Professionals sind die Championen, was reden für und stützen Menschen mit entwickelten Disabilities. Sie sind die Menschen in unserer Gehirns, was sind mit keinem Mission, was ist größer von der Arbeit. Kommt zusammen mit uns auf den Weg, was können übermachen Lebens, reingerechnet an eigene. Anwenden zu seiner direkt stützen Professional bei directsupportcareers.com. Es ist größer von Arbeit. Das ist dein Mission.
Most people don't have enough life insurance. How do you know if you have the right amount, the right type, the most cost-effective policy to protect your family when you need it the most? Hi, this is Ann Lowy, independent life insurance expert for over 35 years. I help my clients navigate all that. And because I'm independent, my loyalty is to you, the client, not the big insurance companies. I'll help you get the best deal out there. After all, you go to a doctor when you need medical advice. You go to a lawyer when you want legal advice. You go to a rabbi for halakhic advice. You should go to an insurance professional to get the right policy for you and your family. Call me and I'll help you figure it all out. Again, my loyalty is to you, my client. Phone 646-335-5519. 646-335-5519.
Hi, this is Rabbi Simon Jacobson, excited to invite you to my radio show, My Life, Tanya Applied, every Saturday night, B'tzoy Shabbos from 10 to 10:30 p.m. on WSNR 620 AM and online, talklinecommunications.com. Please join me for this exhilarating journey where we will apply the deepest teachings of Torah to our personal, emotional, and psychological lives.
Hi, I'm New York State Assemblyman Ari Brown. I'm inviting you to a very special event tomorrow, Sunday, January 12th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Chabad of the Beaches in Long Beach. I'm hosting a kidney donation awareness and swabbing drive, and as someone who's donated a kidney myself, I can tell you it's more than just saving one person. It's about saving families, communities, and giving hope to those who desperately need it. By simply getting swabbed, you could be the match to someone who's been waiting a very, very long time. You can change a life forever. You know, this is very personal. It's a personal mission for me. So please, come down tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 570 West Walnut Street in Long Beach. Join me and let's work together to save lives. Thank you.
Podcasts are everywhere, but cutting through the noise is tough. Did you know of the 5 million podcasts worldwide? Half of them only get 30 listeners? Want to reach a bigger audience? Think radio. Talkline Network gets you targeted listeners who are ready to engage with your message. Host your own show with us and supercharge your podcast's reach. We'll help you connect with the right audience. For a free consultation, call Talkline Network today at 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, or email zevbrenner@gmail.com. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
And we're back. Our guest is Harvard law professor Jeannie Suk Gersen. She has become a Jew in the aftermath of October 7th. She's written an article in the New Yorker, Converting to Judaism in the Wake of October 7th. Sam in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, your question or comment for our guest. Go ahead, Sam.
Yes, good tavach, and welcome to Klal Yisrael.
Thank you.
I was listening in. Okay, I was listening in before by people talking about this rabbi that converted you is accepted by Israel or not. I just want to make you aware that hundreds of thousands of Jews don't regard Israel as any authority, or they're against the state of Israel.
No, not hundreds of thousands. No. Okay.
How many is there?
Well,
a small group. Hold on, Monroe.
Williamsburg,
Listen, there's an anti-Zionism streak in the Satmar community. They still go to
Right.
Israel, and the
There's
Satmar Rebbe brings money to
14,000
Israel.
Families in Monsey, 18,000 families in Monroe, in Kiryas Yoel, and there's 25,000 families in Williamsburg, and
Correct.
there is thousands in Borough Park. So how many people are there?
But that's
So-
but they let's
And
put
it's
this.
not only Satmar.
Yeah.
This would also include.
So
There would also include lots of other Hasidic communities. And if you would do your due diligence, you'll find out how Minka Rebbe was against Israel. You'll find
I
Rebbe was against the state of
I
Israel.
take your point. I take your point. So,
Pre-1948, a lot of it's changed.
Zev, may I?
Okay, go ahead,
And
Professor.
once you keep in the tradition of pre-1948.
So I take your, thank you.
Respond. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you so much for making that comment. I take your point, regardless of, how you count or how many. I think that what the point you are making, and it's not central to pin down exactly how many, but that there are many Jews who do not consider what the chief rabbinate thinks to be the most important or the only or the central consideration about a conversion. And I take that point, that some Jews care about that and some Jews do not.
I personally have been involved in 3 converts where I helped them financially. I had a convert from Sweden and I helped them pay for it and bring them living here in the United States, help them get married. And we went to local rabbis. All you need is 3 rabbanim, and that's how Ruth went, and she would have never been accepted by the state of Israel. So be proud.
Thank you.
This is what I'm trying to say.
But by the way,
Thank you.
point that I wanted to make is that you have a small group called Neturei Karta, which are anti-Israel. In fact, I think was in the article about
anti-Israel.
I know about, familiar with Rabbi Yoli, and familiar with it, and I'm telling you, hold on one second, Samuel, and I'm telling you that despite the rhetoric, and I know they had to reboot anti-Zionism because things have changed, and the fact is, though, they can say I'm anti-the-state, and they go to Israel, and the Satmar Rebbe brings millions of dollars of money and currency into Israel. So,
but we don't recognize the Rabbanut as our leaders. So
okay, that's true. You don't recognize the Rabbanut, but you recognize, but the de facto recognize the state of Israel. If you bring money,
help, not de facto, we help every Jew wherever they are, and of course,
I
mean that they are the authority.
So I would just say that the conversation we've just had in the last few seconds is one of the fault lines within the Jewish community and within the Orthodox Jewish community, and we've just heard exactly the lines of disagreement, and I think that's fitting because it exists.
You right. Thank you, Sam. You had a quick 30 seconds, and yes.
If any convert really means it, and there's 3 upon them that are accepting it, are doing the mikvah, that's all she needs. Nothing more. Nobody accepted by there and by them, nothing. That's all irrelevant. Ruth, which is the grandmother of King David, had just that. That's it. No, this organization, that organization, it's all not necessary. Don't send out the wrong message. Accept it, not accept it. If they mean it well and they're Orthodox, they're accepting the Torah, they are accepted as truth.
Anyway, thank you for your phone call. By the way, I think you're right in your article about some that are anti-Israel that also went through the conversion process, correct?
Yes, I had talked to one convert who is observant and is part of an Orthodox community, but she is considers herself an anti-Zionist, and so that is also part of the community of Jews who are both community of converts and also the community of Jews writ large.
Michael writes a very interesting question. Michael says, "My compliments on your heartwarming story, Professor. Question in light of your long-standing ties to Judaism and your recent conversion. Do you plan to put to use your superlative legal skills to advocate for Jewish students at Harvard and more broadly on behalf of the Jewish community, such as perhaps by submitting briefs in relevant cases?"
I would not be surprised if that, certainly the legal involvement, and I do sometimes submit briefs, and I would also say that it's sometimes been hard to know with certainty what is the Jewish position on a certain legal issue, because sometimes there is intra-Jewish conflict about what is best and what is most consistent with Judaism. And so I would like to wholeheartedly engage in that debate, and now I can do so as a Jew. And so I look forward to that, and there may come times when I do weigh in on certain legal issues that affect Jews or on which Jews might have a position or multiple positions. And in terms of the Jewish community at Harvard, I do consider myself part of the Jewish community at Harvard, and I hope to engage more with students at Harvard and Jewish community student in the community at Harvard.
Because students in Harvard and Barnard and Columbia, and I can name other colleges around the country, are having a tough time because of the anti-Semitism, the anti-Israelism. And to me, it's the same anti-Israel, anti-Semitism, those Hamas protesters and the violence in some cases and the threatening of Jewish students. So the question, though, is what can we do to protect their rights? And in fact, at certain colleges, they're looking to diminish Orthodox Jewish students from attending their schools as well.
Well, I'm not really aware of, I'm not aware firsthand, or nor have I had real word that schools are trying to diminish Orthodox students attending. I've only heard about wanting to increase the presence of Orthodox Jews.
Some schools, including
yeah.
Barnard, for example, where in the name of diversity, where they want to take on more students from around the country, they want to cut back on Jewish students and Orthodox Jewish students. And other
Well, you know, Orthodox Jewish students are also part of the diversity. And I myself have heard that schools are trying, at least some of them are trying to diversify their student bodies by having more Orthodox Jews than they have had in the past. So I'm sure it's a mix, and I'm sure it's different at different schools, but I don't think there's kind of one narrative here that's the true one in terms of what schools are going to do.
In the few moments that we have remaining, I'm curious, I know that you're Korean and your family came from North Korea originally. Have you found, since you've written the article, that there are other Koreans that have approached you and said, I want to become Jewish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have. I wouldn't say it's a whole flood of people, but yes, I have. I've heard from people who already are on the journey or were already on the path, who've let me know, and others who have asked me for just for advice and support. I wouldn't be that surprised. I mean, I actually jokingly said to Angela Bookdahl, who is the Korean American rabbi at Central Synagogue, I wonder if like next year we're going to see a whole increase in this demographic, or people in Korea actually wanting to convert. And I told her, like, I actually wouldn't be surprised.
Well, in Korea, as I said earlier, they have reverence for the Talmud. And there have been cases of people studying the Talmud that actually went to Israel to convert. I've heard
that's true. That is true. Yes.
And so, which is interesting to see. And even in Japan, by the way, from what I've been told, that a lot of the temples, if you go into the back of the temples, have Jewish symbols. They may come from the 10 lost tribes of Israel, which is a whole different program which we've tackled. But there may be some Jewish roots even in Japan as well.
Yeah, and the fact that Jews have always been multinational, multi-ethnic. This is not about one nation or one country. The Jewish religion and the tribe spans these kind of modern nation states and transcends them. And the fact, if we were to see an increase in Asian Jews over the next century or so, I wouldn't consider that a shocking result.
I know you've written 3 books. Is there a book in the offing about your becoming a Jew or your odyssey over 25 years?
Well, I have been approached by some publishers, but I can't really turn to that or entertain that seriously, because I have a book that's already due that will be due next year. I'm writing a book about the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard case. That was the Supreme Court case about affirmative action, the one that invalidated the previous Supreme Court precedent that allowed affirmative action on the basis of racial diversity. And so that case is the subject of my next book, and I'm hard at work on that. And until I've got that drafted, I'm not going to be writing a different book. But you know, I'll never say never. There may be a book about Judaism in the future.
But wasn't that case with Harvard dealing with Asian students that were being discriminated against?
That was the claim the plaintiffs made, that Harvard was intentionally discriminating against Asian students in the course of trying to create a racially diverse class. That was certainly the claim. And so in the book, I will sort of examine that claim, examine the evidence, and look at the legal ruling. by the Supreme Court and its reasoning, and then the effects that it will have on both education and the rest of our society.
Harvard Law Professor Jeannie Suk Gersen, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your commitment to Judaism, to the Jewish people, 25-year odyssey, but you stuck it out and you finally made the plunge, became a Jew, and do it in such a graceful way. So continued success. We look forward to having you back again. And thank you for joining us and being part of our show.
Thank you very much, Zev. It was really great to be with you.
Thank you very much. Shalom. By the way, my last question, did you learn any Yiddish along the way?
Of course. Of course. I mean, I every time I walk into an air-conditioned room, I go, it's such a mechaya.
Very good. Thanks. It's a mechaya to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good night.
A wonderful story about converting to Judaism. When we come back, we'll hear the